You ever have a night where you think you're just driving home, minding your business, and the universe decides it's your turn to be the headline? Yeah, that happened. And let me tell you, it started with blue lights in my rear view and ended with a whole town arguing about justice. I'm not exaggerating. If you'd asked me an hour before, I'd have bet my whole paycheck I'd be in bed by midnight, not the center of a media firestorm. But life's got a sense of humor like that, you know? So picture this, I'm humming Marvin Gaye, windows cracked just enough to catch the last of the rain, thinking about my little girl and my wife waiting back at home, and honestly about how the week nearly chewed me up 7 days straight, running with the task force. All I wanted was peace and maybe a hot shower. But right as I'm crossing the bridge near Lake Bentonville, here comes this patrol car siren screaming, like I robbed the bank and made off with the vault. I figured maybe they're headed somewhere else, so I slow up, move over, but that siren just won't quit. Fine. I pull over, kill the engine, and go through the motions wallet out on the dash, hands on the wheel like I've done 100 times before. Rain's gone, but you could still smell it on the pavement, that kind of fresh, charged air. The two officers get out one's big, barrel-chested looks like he's seen every episode of Cops. The other's young, nervous, got that flashlight death grip thing going. The older guy, Rick says so on his badge, asks me what I'm doing out so late. I tell him even-voiced, just heading home. The young one, Turner, flicks that flashlight in my eyes, says they got a call about a black SUV with tinted windows, maybe involved in a burglary in Rogers. Doesn't even bother with a plate number. Classic. I ask, you got a plate for that? They don't. He wants my license and registration. No problem. I nod, point at my wallet, move real slow. I hand it over. Rick glances at it, says, I'm from Little Rock, stationed in Fort Smith, wants to know my business. Law enforcement, I say. You'd think that would cool things down? Nope, makes him itchier. Rick says you got ID to back that up. I say I do, but I want to know the reason for the stop before I show federal credentials. That annoys him. Step out of the vehicle, he says, voice sharper, a little too loud for comfort. I don't move, just say, call your supervisor because now it's getting serious. Turner smirks. If you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about. That old chestnut. I almost laugh, but instead I say, Officer Holden, Officer Turner, before we do anything else. I'm identifying myself. I reach slow, pull out my badge, U.S. Marshal Coleman, gold shield, right in the headlights. I tell them you might want to rethink how you're handling this. Man, you could cut the silence with a knife. Rick blinks. You're a marshal. That's what I said. Turner goes pale. I hold up my ID. Right here, call it in if you want. Fort Smith, Task Force Division 9. They look at each other like the bottom just dropped out of their world. Procedure, Rick stammers. I tell him procedure doesn't include grabbing a door handle on a federal officer's car, or shouting or assuming I'm guilty before you know my name. Now both of them are sweating radios, crackling dispatch, confirming my credentials. They finally hand everything back, muttering apologies. Next time, start with respect, I tell them. I pull back onto the road, headlights sweeping the empty stretch ahead, trying to calm down. But the tension, man, it's sitting heavy in my chest. But I think, all right, misunderstanding, they'll forget. I'll forget. Everyone goes home, right? Not even close. Because as I'm about to drive off, I see the two of them still by their cruiser, talking, gesturing at my SUV, like they can't let it go. Rick comes back over, jaw clenched. Mine's stepping out for a word, Marshal. The word sounds like it burned his mouth. I get out, hands visible. I ask, what else do you need? Rick mumbles something about standard follow-up, but I can see what's really happening. This isn't about the vehicle, it's about me. I say as much, given the nature of my vehicle or the nature of me driving it. He's got nothing to say. Turner pipes up. You fit a description, sir. Just doing our jobs, I tell him. Doing your job means knowing when you're crossing the line. Don't grab at someone's door. Don't assume guilt. Rick says they didn't assume anything, but I say yes, you did. You just didn't expect the badge. That hits him hard. He looks embarrassed, angry like a kid caught cheating on a test. I tell them both body cams are rolling, mine there, so let's be careful how we talk about this stop. Rick says, we don't need to get all legal about it, but I remind him, pull over a Fed for no reason. It is legal. It's called misconduct. Turner tries to apologize, says folks in town are nervous after a burglary, emotions running high. I say then, control yours. If I didn't have this badge, we both know how it could have gone. And we all just stand there realizing the truth, no apologies fixing that kind of damage. Finally, Rick says, you got our names. You'll hear from the department. I say good because I'll be talking about training, not revenge. I snap a photo of their cruiser unit numbers. Everything. Get back in my Tahoe, start the engine, watch them in the rear view, smaller than before. I drive off, no music, just me and my racing mind. It's not the stop itself that gets me. It's knowing it's happened before and it'll happen again, badge or no badge. I think about my dad used to wear a badge himself. A uniform doesn't make you safe, son, it makes you visible. Sometimes that's the danger. That line rattles around my head. My phone buzzes. Lionel, my buddy from Fort Smith. You good, he asks. I tell him, yeah, but this one's different. There's footage, both sides. He says, you gonna report it? I tell him it's already in motion. Next morning, the police station in Bentonville's buzzing. 2 officers nearly detained a U.S. Marshal. Whisper networks in the hallways, but I'm back home, black coffee in hand, watching the footage, every second of it. The way Rick reached for my door, the way their voices changed once the badge came out. My wife Tanya stands by the counter, arms crossed. You sure you want to take this further? She asks, worried. I tell her if I don't, next time might be worse, might be someone who doesn't have a badge. She sighs, says she's seen what happens when folks push back. I say, that's why I'm not yelling. I'm just showing them the truth. Phone rings again. Unknown number. Captain Neil Peterson from Bentonville PD, apologizing. I tell him apologies nice, but what's being done? He says internal review interviews this afternoon. I ask if the officers are still on duty. He says for now. I say, grabbing a door handle on a federal vehicle isn't a minor lapse, Captain. He says they're taking it seriously. Tanya shakes her head. You just painted a target on your back. I laugh, wouldn't be the first time. That afternoon, I drive to the station, file my report. Rick and Cole are there, pale as ghosts. I don't say a word, just keep it official. Inside, Captain Peterson admits the footage looks bad. The optics alone, he says, but the conduct... I cut him off. It's not about optics. It's about behavior. He says, I hope this doesn't blow up beyond Bentonville. I tell him it's out of his hands. The footage is public record now, and if they try to bury it, I've got my own. His shoulders sag. I say I'm not here for vengeance, just accountability. As I leave, Rick tries to apologize again, but I stop him. If you're sorry, prove it next time. That night, Lionel texts, check Twitter. The video's out, body cam and all, already over 100,000 views. Comments blowing up, some folks mad, some defending the officers, some just stunned at how calm I stayed. I leaned back, weight of the whole mess hitting me. Didn't want attention, just wanted truth. But now it's out there, raw, unfiltered, and growing. By next afternoon, news breaks everywhere. First Arkansas, then Texas, Missouri, Tennessee. By nightfall, it's national. Black U.S. Marshal wrongfully pulled over by Bentonville police. TV anchors freeze frame the second Rick grabs the door handle. Social media loops it endlessly. Some call me a hero for keeping cool. Others say I overreacted. Lionel tells me I'm trending #2 nationwide. Not the kind of trend I want, I tell him. He says, you handled it better than I would have. I say calm keeps you alive. But calm doesn't fix what's broken. Back at the station, Rick and Cole are getting the silent treatment. Captain Peterson reads them the riot act. Protocol doesn't include shouting at a driver who hasn't resisted, he says. Both go on administrative leave pending review. Reporters swarm the place. Mayor makes a statement, sounds polished, but it doesn't calm the crowd. Tanya tells me I'm on every channel, even CNN. I tell her I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about what happens when power goes unchecked. She says, "It's going to get ugly before it gets better." She's right. Politicians chime in, unions say the leak's a security breach. My boss at the Marshal's calls wants a written report. DOJ classifies it as a civil rights review. Truth has a cost, she says. You did the right thing. The next morning, protests start, signs reading "Badge Not Immunity," people honking, demanding accountability. Rick's drowning, reporters union rep's family. Cole deletes every social account. Lawyers get involved, civil rights groups, even the mayor. Lionel sends me a video. Someone edited my calm voice over their raised tones, ending with, "Professionalism isn't about who wears the badge. It's about who respects it." 1 million views in a day. But then the story twists. Headlines change. Now some call it a misunderstanding. Others say I escalated. The Bentonville PD releases a statement, "Legitimate misunderstanding." Lionel calls they're spinning it. I say the system protects itself. First, they're not arguing with footage, they're arguing perception. A local news reporter asked me to interview. She wants the truth. I agree, tell her on camera. If misunderstanding means grabbing a door handle before verifying who someone is, we've lowered the bar for accountability. The segment airs, strikes a nerve. Supporters applaud, critics say I'm political. Opinion pieces question if I compromised an investigation, even though I never leaked a thing. Next, I get a formal inquiry from my own office. I draft a federal misconduct report, attach all the footage, every timestamp. At the end, I write, "This isn't about race alone. It's about what happens when assumption becomes standard procedure." I hit send. Peterson calls Holden and Turner, have lawyers, claim emotional distress, might sue if the city acts. I laugh without humor. Now, they're the victims. Peterson says some officers respect what I did, just can't say it out loud. I tell him I'm not looking for applause, Captain. I'm looking for change. In the days that follow, everyone's got an opinion, talk shows, comment sections. Law enforcement veterans, even young black officers thank me. One message from a retired chief sticks. He tells me I exposed something that's always been there. When the hearing finally comes, the courthouse is packed. Reporters everywhere. Tanya sits in the back, Lionel by the door. I wear my formal uniform, stand tall, let the footage play. When they pause on Rick grabbing my door, the air goes thick. The board asks pointed questions. Why'd you escalate? Why touch the handle? Was there any real threat? The answer, when you boil it down, is bias and assumption. I tell them this isn't pressure, it's prejudice disguised as protocol. When it's over, the board rules, Holden and Turner violated both procedural and ethical standards, suspended without pay. The department gets federal oversight, mandatory training. Dr. Field says my restraint is on record. Rick apologizes, real this time. I tell him owning it is the first step. Make the next one different. As we leave, Lionel claps my shoulder. That was one hell of a hearing. I tell him it wasn't about winning. It was about showing the truth can still speak even when people try to bury it. That evening, the house is quiet. Tanya hands me a mug of coffee. The news says the officers are permanently gone. Training starts next month. You think anything will really change? She asks. I look at my badge. Maybe not overnight, but somebody will remember. Maybe next week a rookie will think twice before grabbing a door handle. Later that week, I'm invited to speak to new recruits. I tell them respect starts before the badge, not after it. Authority without empathy is just control, and control without purpose becomes cruelty. Don't let that be you. Afterward, a young guy comes up. His dad's a cop too. People remember how you make them feel, he says. Your dad's a wise man, I tell him. Over breakfast with Lionel, he asks, what's next book deal? I laugh. No fame chasing for me. Maybe start a training program. Help new officers see the world clearly when things go sideways. As we eat, a woman recognizes me, thanks me. Her brother, a trooper, showed my hearing to his whole department, said, it changed how they talk about stops. That right there, that's how change starts, not with noise, but with one person at a time. Back home, badge on the table, I sit by the window, rain tapping soft, thinking about my dad's words. Do right when no one's watching. That's the only justice that lasts. I record a new message for anyone who wears a badge or holds power. Justice isn't just a courtroom word, it's a choice every single day. Then I hit stop, and for the first time in weeks, I feel the weight finally lift. So let me ask you, what do you think? When does accountability really begin? Is it when the world's watching or when nobody's looking at all? Drop your take in the comments. Share your own story if you've lived something like this. And hey, if you still believe truth and respect matter, hit subscribe because this story isn't just mine, it's all of ours.